Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the best game on the net. All right, you got Glenn Lawrence here with Paul, ApexMindset. He's in a disclosed location, so we ain't gonna see him today, but he is actually on the air with us. Say what
You'll
up,
hear
Paul.
me. Woo. What's up,
Yeah,
guys?
the voice of reason.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. I'll just be the voice in the background. I'll be your conscious. This is your conscious speaking.
It's your conscious speaking. So, and Afi Kingdom supposed to be hopping on. AV is supposed to be hopping on. So we're just gonna start, and if those guys hop on, then great. If not, we'll just keep rolling with it. We'll probably do this for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we'll go from there. But
Oh yeah.
the topic today is the problem with modern men,
Ooh.
and we see a lot of like displays of men or men displaying behaviors in our pop culture in our life that we see, and we're like, what's the problem with these men? We've all seen the Will Smith slap. you know we
Mm-hmm.
we we all know what's going on with those entanglements. Um we see a lot of people running to these offenses, and then we see these guys dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on these women's OnlyFans and willing to what happened to being men.
Right.
you know so Paul, how about you give us like, because you're gonna go into this like deep you know like subculture of biometric or biosphere or whatever of some species. So how about you break
Mm-hmm.
it down from the species thing? Like, what happened to us as a society? Where we gone as a society of men?
Yeah. No, it's a really good question, and I'm going to work on just a more illustrated video with research and stuff that people because it's what I'm going to say is pretty controversial, but there's a lot of information to back it up though. Um, but we can essentially look at kind of the evolution of our species. And you have to understand, we evolved due to mating and mating strategies, right? So the thing that causes us to evolve is survive. And that means survive generation after generation. So that means that people need to both survive and they need to be able to mate with each other. And so the biggest drivers we have and a lot of our instincts come down to survival, or they come down to mating. And as it turns out, mating is actually a more powerful driver. So, like, because we only need to survive long enough to be able to mate, right? And so, and then after that, whatever happens. So, you know, for our internal drives are really driven by sexual selection and by having the opportunity to have offspring, which means sexual opportunities. So we need to, everyone listening needs to first understand that our behaviors boil down, a lot of things we do boil down to creating mating opportunities for us. We have our human parts of the brain that's logical and thinking and all that, but we're not driven by that. We're driven largely by emotions and unconscious thoughts, which can happen from the social conditioning and previous experiences. And we're driven a lot by our instincts, just what sort of, feels good or doesn't feel good and points us into a set of behaviors and doing stuff. And and so it's just, where people aren't aware of what they're doing. And for the longest time, we were basically, the animal parts of us were more like chimpanzees. You know, we had to fight against threats, predators, other tribes, and resources were scarce, and we had to fend for trying to find resources. We had to be nomadic to go different places when resources would run dry or the threat level would become too high with another tribe, and it was survival of the fittest. And in that sort of thing, the strongest and the most physically capable um, beings will live on, and that placed the males being the stronger of the two genders or sexes, as the leaders of society, tribes, all that stuff. So we grew up as patriarchal. But what we're finding, what we're happening is we're seeing a shift. And that shift is into what we can observe in the animal kingdom as bonobos. All right. So bonobos are only a few genetic steps away from human beings. And same with chimpanzees. So they're about equal. If we look at our genes, we're like, I don't remember the exact percentage, but something like 94%. Like we're 94% identical to chimpanzees. We're also 94% identical to bonobos. That little 6% in our genetic code is what makes us human beings. So on a genetic level, we're not that much different. When it comes to instincts, we're not that much different. Well, with technology and ingenuity, we've evolved to a point where we've removed or reduced the need for protection. Now, granted, people go to war and stuff like that, but war is fought even nowadays largely by technology. With bombs and computers and screens and all that stuff, right?
Not a whole
Drones,
lot of
like,
boots on the ground anymore.
yeah. I mean, there are places, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like back in our ancestral past where we were literally, you wouldn't get through to the age of 30 without having at least a handful of fights or two that could have killed you, with another tribe back in most of our history. Whereas now, most people will go through their whole lives never ever having to defend themselves. And so it's just, which is good. These are all good things by and large, but we've removed the need for aggression and we've removed the need for violence to get things done. Or not completely removed it, but we've reduced it almost to nothing. And so how men classically got things done and made decisions was in part with the ability to do violence and the ability to do aggression. Well, we removed that. And so then what was left? Well, men also procured and got the resources, right? That's what we did also. It wasn't having to use aggression and fight, it was getting the resources. Well, now resources are pretty abundant and women can get resources just like men. There is no difference, really, not much of one in a sense. So this is just like how bonobos evolved. They were blocked off by a river, and it was a species of basically primates that were just like chimpanzees, and they didn't have any predators because of where they lived out in southern parts of Africa, and they had an abundance of resources for what they would eat. So there was no need or very little need for violence and physical power and that level of dominance. And there wasn't a struggle for resources in that sense. So what got bred out of them was the survival side of it got bred out of them. And what was left over was the sexual side of it. Well, because women control the birth and are the sexual selectors in every species, now this puts women effectively in charge. That's what we're shifting to. Now, our genetics haven't shifted completely to that. We're still like, we've only been a few generations into this. But, and let's say, look at internet dating. It's only been around for like a generation, maybe a generation and a half, right?
Yeah.
But we keep going for the next couple hundred years. We're looking exactly like bonobos. Now, how bonobos look is women run the show, they control the sex, and most guys don't get any of it. You don't even have alphas and betas anymore. The idea of alpha male, beta male. We don't even have that anymore.
What does it come
Because
down
now,
to?
yeah,
What would it come to?
Yeah, so it's breeders and then everybody else who isn't getting the sex, essentially.
Wow.
Now, obviously, this is just this is what it's pushing towards. It's not really exactly like that, but women tend with absence of an alpha male. So my definition of an alpha male is a guy who has game and dominance and social awareness, and she falls into that guy's leadership. So she finds him sexually attractive, and she wants to be led by that guy. That's the alpha male. A breeder is just a guy that she wants to bang, but she's not going to be led by that guy. She's just going to control that circumstance as much as she can. She's going to go home with him or maybe booty call him at 2 a.m., cheat on her boyfriend and then go head out, right? And so and then every male is being reduced to some sort of provider in their minds of something that fulfills their goals and their imperatives. So maybe a particular guy will help her with, getting her car fixed. Another guy will be like her companion that she goes and, cries on and tells her all her problems to, all that stuff. Another guy will be maybe a guy that just kind of gives her attention and he's the friend, that kind of stuff, right? But then she'll have that dude that's the breeder. And the breeder is the dude that she uses as a sexual object. And she ends up banging that dude. And then she goes back to real life. That's how it goes. So what were you going to say?
I want to say what up to AV coming into the room. What up, Alpha?
What up?
Hey guys, sorry I'm late, man. I'm on the clock as well. I'm working, so I apologize for the delay. What's poppin'? It was good.
No problem, man.
No worries, dude. I'm in an undisclosed location. I can't even show my stuff.
Nah, it's all good. I heard, man. I'm glad we were able to at least, kind of get the kinks out. We'll get it right. Wednesday may not necessarily be the best day, but we're getting it in regardless.
Yeah, for sure. So I got a question. So with the bonobos, like, what is like the detriment to society? Like, is there any bonobos tribes or historical groups of people that adopted this that have been successful?
Well, no. And it's something we're moving towards. We've always been across the board mainly patriarchal, right? In just about every society out there. There may have been a one-off, female kind of driven society. But there are times in history we've had queens that were, kind of in charge. But for the most part, though, and even in those cases, the people behind that queen, she was more of a figurehead a lot of times, and the people behind that were usually the males. But not really, you know what I mean? And so, and still instinctually, like if an alpha male is in presence of a woman and executing just that game and that dominance, she'll tend to follow that guy and feel more comfortable doing that, right? Like that's where she'll feel natural sort of falling to that guy's leadership.
Yeah.
But women are being more and more socially conditioned to not do that and to see that as a threat, and then to kind of go with, they'll turn down a guy who's a true alpha for some dork that they can control. And then they'll just like bang the F boy at the bar when she's not looking. Like this is like kind of what it's turning into. And, just a lack of predators, lack of, threats for us as human beings. I mean, and of course, sexual promiscuity going up too, which we see that in bonobos as well, right? So, I mean, never in a time in history have women been able to so openly increase their notch count, right? And have no issues with that. Like the average prior to internet dating was 7 or 8 sexual partners in an entire lifetime. Nowadays,
I just saw a girl had 1,000+ body count. She was talking on No Jumper, bragging about it. And I'm like, man,
she is bragging about it. Like you never would have had that. Like if there was a woman who had more than 10 or 15 notches, a couple generations ago, she would not be on a show bragging about that. But now it's a badge of honor, right? And so like what this is doing though is it's ultimately putting men in a position of slavery. Okay. Like, so women are in charge and men are used as utility, and there are no real relationships anymore. I mean, this is of course not what is happening right now, but you can see the push towards
where it's leading to.
It's leading to that, right?
And so so when I think about it, when I'm talking to guys about this, I'm like, the mind, it goes back down to mindset. I think AV agree with me on this. Like, too many guys put the pussy on the pedestal, to the point where like, I want to get a girl. I want to get laid. Like I'm using game to get laid, to get a girl, or to get in a relationship. Like the way I look at it is like, dude, you are the prize. If you get her, if you get her, if you choose her and you select her, like you want to invest in her to be your partner, she cashes out. She wins. She got you providing for her and taking care of her because you chose her. Like, because it says, I think Rollo says this. Men are the gatekeepers to relationships. Women are the gatekeepers of sex. And it seems like right now that women are trying to take that gatekeeper's key to relationships as well as sex. And I think that men need to take that back and understand that you have to be selective with who you get. Like, don't settle for just any thought that opens her legs at you. Like, if you want to smash, but don't wife her up.
Well, yeah, at least you have to be careful and make sure that she is capable of this commitment that you're trying to put her into, or that she should actually be trying to go for the commitment, right?
Yeah, she should be the one that's trying to push for the commitment.
Right.
Like,
and when she does that, she's doing that, because for a number of possible reasons. But you got to look at, is she capable? And that's the thing. And so, because right now we know that, let's just use an example. Average girl nowadays, by the time she hits 30 years old, she's gone through anywhere, usually between 20 and possibly 40, 45 guys, right? That's where her notches probably are. And some are more, some are less. I get that. But that's where the averages are starting to seem to land, according to some new data. So with that, okay, we never in a time in our history have done that. So let's look at what that means. A girl's been with like 4 dudes, right? Well, when she sleeps with somebody and has that sexual connection, she associates an oxytocin and neurochemicals that make her feel all those love feelings with that particular guy, right? Well, if she's done that 25 times, what happens to those love chemicals? They're now reduced, right? They become, they're not as stimulated, or even stimulated at all for that matter. So the sexual experiences for them are just like fun and feels good or whatever, but there's no bonding to it. And so they used to be that sex was a mechanism for bonding, but now it's not like that anymore. There's a lot of one-night stands, there's a lot of short-term partners, there's a lot of cheating, there's a lot of multiple partners, and it's not used as a bonding mechanism. And so there are things going on neurologically with that, but it's a simple fact that if women are practicing short-term relationships, then that's what they're going to be good at. You get good at what you practice, and you're not going to be good at a long-term relationship, right? And so you're ruining your chances, really, with women are particularly ruining their chances for having that long-term success. And even if they're not, going to stray, and their value system is going to mean that they're not going to cheat, what'll happen is they just won't get the good feelings they should be having for long-term for that partner. They'll just feel bored and feel less excited and feel dull. And we know women are emotional creatures, so if they don't feel excited, what happens?
If they're not stimulated, they're gonna get
not stimulated,
bored.
right? They're out of pocket now. Now they're bitchy. Now they're not, respecting you. Now they're not really wanting to do stuff with you. Now the sex comes, starts to dry up. Like, these are the things that end up starting to happen. Now there's ways to get around this, of course, but this is just, kind of what we're pointing towards. If people are not aware and selective, and they're just on autopilot out there in the sexual marketplace, well, they're pretty much likely going to have, a lot of heartache and pain, especially men, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we're.
And I think you hit a point, and I want AV to hop in here, because you mentioned respect and women not respecting the man. I think in a way that men are not respecting men, like not even respecting their own title. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a man, like there's a title to be a man. Like, I think me and AV talked about this before. Bitches are non-binary. Okay, you could be a bitch as a male and a female. Like bitches are non-binary. So with that being said, like men are disrespecting what it takes to be a man by accepting this type of behavior. Would you agree, Avi?
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just I just want to make sure my okay, cool. Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, bro, men are not respecting the title because they're allowing someone else to give them and define what the title is. You know what I mean? So men are allowing women to define who and what they should be. A real man does this, a real man does that. Meanwhile, they're saying it from a position of opportunity, right? They're not saying it from the goodness of their heart. They're saying it so you could play a particular role in their movie and be the simp that they need you to be at that moment. Number two, men are not respecting themselves because they don't see any value in respecting themselves. Guys have to understand that respect is earned and you have to earn it yourself. You have to respect yourself before you expect anybody to fucking respect you, bro. And at the end of the day, I said this today on my morning show. I said, bro, a woman's energy or reciprocity or however she's interacting with you is necessarily conducive on how you behave yourself. So if you respect yourself, typically a woman will be forced to respect you. If you love yourself, etc., she will be forced to love you. Now, here's my thing, guys. Women don't have to respect men. Yes, men are the prize if they do the fucking work, but women don't have to respect me. Now, if the broad doesn't respect me, fellas, then I'm gonna find another broad who does. It's really that simple. See, like this, I think a lot of guys are ice skating uphill. I think a lot of guys in the younger, when the hormones are really, thriving and popping. I'm 48 years old and shit, and I still love sex and shit. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna have sex or compromise what's more valuable to me now at 48. Now, as your testosterone levels start to go down and you don't necessarily have time to bang out as many girls as you think you can, you're going to start to realize that sex is not the most important thing because you can have better sex with a woman who's compliant and feminine as opposed to a broad that looks really, really hot and sexy. So at the end of the day, you guys are sitting and saying a lot of points, man. But ultimately, guys, find people that respect you. Mess around with people, go where you're celebrated and not tolerated, and your chances of being celebrated will be higher if you put in the work. Like Rich Cooper says, put in the fucking work, bro. Nobody cares about your feelings. Hypergamy doesn't care. Put in the work, and then you'll be celebrated more and mess with people who want to mess with you.
Yeah, I mentioned something about game the other day on Facebook and Instagram, and I also put it in Paul's Apex group. And I'll read it because I think it's part of respect. All right, I said I'm going to explain this very simple, a way that can be applied in many areas in life. Many people will say game is the ability to get women to sleep with you, although this may be true. And if you're single and just trying to get laid, but I believe game goes further than that, and then adding notches to your body count. Game is the ability to attract someone and them investing in you. It's not you investing in them; it's them investing in you. Let's look at it as a perspective as if I was a businessman. Let's say I develop a product and I'm selling it. First thing I do, I have to make the product attractive to you either by design or by function. Now that I got you hooked on the attraction of it, now you're going to debate whether or not that product is valuable in your life and if it's worth you purchasing, investing your money in, and buying into you. And then from there, you look at it from a friendship standpoint. We all know there's some shitty people out there, right? If a friend is untrustworthy, if a person is, has bad qualities, as a person, you'd be like, this person has some unattractive qualities. I don't want to invest them as a friend because we know some of our friends are closer than our own family, and with our friends, we are willing to give up our time and our resources to because they are friends. But if somebody doesn't have the right game as a friend, you're not going to invest your time into that friendship. Same thing with relationships. If you're with a woman, game is about respect. You respect what you have to offer somebody, and you don't squander it. You don't just give it out to every broad that's out there. Okay, because what you have is a value, and every
Mhm.
little bit you give away, you don't get back. You don't have unless you're Bill Gates or whoever has unlimited game. You don't have, if you found the fountain of youth game and that's never ending. Your game
Right.
is going to eventually decrease as you get older in time, and as you get older in age, your resources tend to, you have to figure out a way to make them work more.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I'm. Go
in
ahead.
that sense, it's like you want to invest. If you're looking for a mate, you have to respect your own game. You have to respect what you have and your resources and what you have to offer, and not just give it to anybody. And I think men have a problem with respecting themselves and respecting their resources, and are willing to tolerate bad behavior just to get laid. And it's almost like they're putting the opportunity to get laid over their own who they are, their own
Right.
respect.
Well, yeah, and let's trace how that happens, right? So most guys, let's take it all the way back to when your hormones start kicking as a man, and you want to get some broads, right? You want to get some sex. You're like a kid, pretty much, right? So you're a young teenager, maybe, or whatever, and there's going to be maybe about 10% of that population that will get, girls going for them, that will get sex happening to them as they age, right? And so they start, sort of figuring women. Those are the naturals, those natural alphas, the ones that are seen as genetically, viable right from the get-go, either because they're physically, usually a mixture of physical characteristics like being taller, being stronger, whatever, and maybe being just more dominant because that's how they were raised or their parents, whatever it may be. And then some of it's just social crap.
Did we lose Paul? Hello.
They're
Oh, there you are.
not getting any attention from women. Like, they're not getting that stuff. And so here you have these hormones that you want to bang your entire freaking, the entire school full of halfway decent chicks, like, right? Like, your hormones are telling you this. But, like, you don't have the ability or to perceive value to get even one girl to look at you if you're 90% of the populace. So then you start looking for answers, right? And then what's there to give you answers? All the social conditioning that tells you if you placate to the female and do what she wants and get her what she wants and do things for her and earn her, earn her love, earn her attraction, all that stuff, then you're gonna get girls to like you. And that's what we're told. And a man doesn't, I mean, most men, like, even those 10% chads in high school, they usually don't, they get out of high school, a lot of them drop off in college, find themselves with scarcity in college. It's like there's a level of scarcity a man has until he reaches a certain age and it flips. If he's been taking care of himself and doing stuff. Whereas women, it's opposite. A pretty good-looking girl, and let's just start with adults. An adult female between young age of 18 to 25, she has the most power in the sexual marketplace she'll ever have, because she gets the most attention and she's the prettiest. And her whole life, she's been getting attention because of her being attractive. Whereas guys have the least amount of power in the sexual marketplace when they're between 18 and 25. And most men don't start really coming to their stride till sometime after 28 years old. And so in that scarcity, men are going, what do I need to do? And then it's all of these answers that essentially put a man into a position of disrespecting himself and disregarding his own value and placating to a woman's needs, wants, desires. If he just does enough things for her, then she'll like him enough. And that, of course, is complete bullshit. Being the prize and being attractive and knowing how to do attractive behavior and respecting yourself is the key to women starting to like you, right? But these guys, we're not told that. I certainly wasn't told that. In fact, I can even reach back. I was told all the wrong crap. I was raised by a single mom. Hey, my mom's did the best with what she had, but my mom, moms don't make good dads, right? And so I didn't have a dad growing up. I had my mom and I had other male influences and all that stuff, but they don't know what they're doing either. And I was following the directions. I was being nice to all the girls, and I would get friend zoned. It was the funniest thing to all my friend groups because I was an attractive dude who would just get in the friend zone like in 2 seconds. I didn't have any game. It wasn't until early, like college age, when I started bouncing at bars, I started seeing what women were like. I took them out of off the pedestal instead of idealizing them, realizing that they are human beings, just like I'm a human being, and they're flawed just like I'm flawed. It's not that crazy. Just because she's pretty, she doesn't have something that special necessarily. And I started respecting my own time. And if a girl, I observed that, these girls would essentially use men for their friendships, but all those men wanted to have sex with them, right? Including me. And then they were using us for our time, our resources, spending time with them, doing things for them, all this stuff. And then the guy that they would hook up with was a guy who was doing none of the things that all the friend zone guys were doing. And I finally said, you know what? If I'm interested in a chick for more than a friendship, and she's not, I'm not going to do favors for her, listen to her problems, do all that stuff. If I'm interested in a sexual relationship and she's not interested, she doesn't get the other parts of me. I just made that standard for myself, and that was
you put boundaries. You just put boundaries.
I started creating simple boundaries. That was it. It was just simple boundaries. This is back in the 90s, right? And I finally started listening to some of my player friends who knew what they were doing because I didn't. And just like, dude, stand up for yourself and set some boundaries. And just by doing that, all of a sudden, I started stacking a Rolodex of women and had dates and had sex partners and all that stuff all of a sudden. And I didn't have any game really. All I did was stand up for myself and set the boundaries and say, you know what? I'm not going to be treated this way. I'm not going to be used for my resources and my time and my efforts and my protection and a little bit of money I have and all that stuff while she dangles, the possibility of sex and sexual relationship with her. But that never happens, right? I'm being used essentially, and it's not something that, it's not based in genuine desire. It's based on an empty promise, essentially. And that's what guys get caught into. I think a lot of the guys get caught into that, and they say, F this, I'm not doing it anymore, if they're smart. And then what ends up happening is they start doing well. But that was way back in the 90s. You know what? Nowadays, I don't know that guys make that decision as often that I made. Nowadays, I feel,
Here we have 30 minutes, and I wanted to do each of us will give one aspect of what we see that we encounter with other guys that we see as a problem amongst men, and then let's give a solution to that problem, like tools to the trade. Like, okay, for me, I'll go first. I say men don't respect themselves enough anymore. And I think men need to start respecting themselves and respecting who they are and what they bring to the table, understanding what their resources are, what society tells men are they're going to end up providing a woman if in the long term. Okay, so if you give a woman, you give a woman a baby, you have sex with her, you get a baby from her. Okay, you want to be with her. Okay, but she's already cashed out no matter what. So you have to be more selective. You have to respect who you are and your resources before you put your thing into somebody and have an offspring. You need to respect and be more selective and vet who you really want to be with before you even go out there and see them. Like me, I don't do attitudes. If you have an attitude, if you're gonna fuck up my peace, it's just not gonna work for me. You don't fuck up my peace. I've been through enough to know that, you know what, my peace is over any sexual experience. Okay, and if you are a problem maker, if you bring calamity, if you have nothing but conflict and chaos in your life, I don't want you in my life. I don't care how fine you are. I don't need that problem. That's for me. I respect myself enough to know that I'm not going to sacrifice my peace for that. That's me. AV, what do you got?
I think one of the biggest problems, and I mentioned this on my AV at night joint with the Super Friends. I think one of the biggest problems that I see that men have today is that they're afraid to love a woman, right? Not fall in love, but love a woman. And I think it starts with not with their inability to love themselves, and it kind of ties into what you said, Glenn. Men don't respect themselves, and how do you respect yourself? You got to first love yourself, right? When you love yourself, you set out goals, you accomplish your goals, you crush your goals, you do the work. It's easier to love yourself because now you're feeling like something, right? You are embracing the success object mantra, right? Men are success objects and shit. So I think guys are afraid to love a woman because, again, I know Rolo says this as well. I think we're better together than apart as long as we are all playing our roles accordingly, right? We let the woman know that there is strength in her femininity. And a woman most likely to be feminine is an easy task if she's around a masculine man. Women are adapting masculine traits because there's not enough masculinity around them, right? So at the end of the day, I think the biggest problem is men don't, like you said, don't respect themselves, and they're afraid to love a woman. They're afraid to love because they're afraid to get hurt. They're afraid to, experience loss. They're afraid that the woman's gonna leave, and that's part of what makes you who you are, bro. It's like getting into a fight. You get your ass kicked a couple of times, it toughens you up. This is part of the ironing, sharpening iron. There's a lot of guys in the space that have never been, quote unquote, in love. Cool. But I think that you're missing out on a lot of things because I feel like the other day I said heartbreak is a necessary evil. It's a necessary evil. You got to experience that heartbreak to know. You know what I'm saying? And I said it the other day too. I said, yo, the more hard times you get your heart broken, the easier you'll realize that it's easier to heal. It'll heal faster. So at the end of the day, men are afraid of the negative outcomes of natural things that should be occurring as opposed to looking at the glass half full and realizing on the flip side of that there is an opportunity for something to materialize into something great if you are doing the work. So it all falls back to the man, bro. No accountability, and this is why they're afraid to love women and love themselves.
Would you say they're more risk adverse?
Absolutely, and I think that comes with the analysis by paralysis by analysis, right? We know there's so much content out there, bro. Like, you know what I mean? We got the books, we have all these people, all these guys that spit a lot of good
BS
content.
Too.
A lot of it's right. So now there's so much, Paul.
Yeah.
A lot of guys can't decipher what's BS and what's not because we got a lot of good people who regurgitate terms and glossary, and with their cadence they kind of vocalize it the same way some of the originators have done it. So it's like, oh, that sounds good. So now they can't even decipher it, bro. So now they know so much information. Now they're scared.
It's almost like we're plagued by all the information that we have.
Precisely.
It's like, yeah,
precisely. Yeah, man. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I always encourage guys to do a digital detox, bro. Sometimes on the weekends, I turn it off because for me, sometimes I find myself getting jaded too. And I'm like, yo, I gotta chill. I gotta snap out of this shit. So it's a work in progress every day, man.
Dude,
what about you, Paul?
Yeah, so first I want to this is why I wanted to do this show with you guys. Right?
Appreciate you, bro.
What AV just did there. Because like that was very well developed and intelligent, and that's stuff that isn't just out there in the spaces, unfortunately.
Right. Appreciate you.
Yeah. And so if people understand, it's like we're in a marketing era of what's trending and what's popular, right? And so let's say, somebody does something that stimulates a bunch of dudes' anxieties, like whatever, all women be cheating, right? Or whatever. And then so everybody jumps on that same topic in one way, shape, or form, because we got things like, and I have these tools too for my channel. I mean, you have them, but like, you jump on vidIQ, you see what's trending. Oh, this thing. Kevin Samuel said this, or, and then you're like, oh, okay. And so it tends to be a regurgitation of the same information. And a lot of that information is not helping anybody. Precisely. Whereas you sidestep all that stuff and you put out some truth bombs that people need to hear right there, because the idea that men are afraid to allow themselves to love a woman or to emotionally connect with a woman, well, that is very true. And we see that in the spaces. See, what happens is a lot of times is they get burned in some ways, or they feel like they got burned. They had a crush on some girl and the girl rejected them or whatever, right?
Right.
And then they can go to the internet now and get all of this information about how women ain't crap. You know what I mean? And then and some of the stuff about savage nature of female nature is true, but it doesn't mean that they're not crap. It just means that they're human beings and there's certain things you need to understand. But they take that and and because, as you mentioned, there's so much info out there.
Right.
And now they don't know which way to go. They don't know really what to do.
It's crazy.
And so without knowing what to do, they're not free, right? To do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say my thought on some of the things here, there's so many things that guys are doing wrong. You know what? This is going to be controversial as hell, what I'm about to say. So bear with me.
Let's go.
In the space anyway, right? It'll sound like very blue pill, but you have to analyze how I'm saying it. Guys are too focused on sex.
That's facts.
That's true. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's what Glenn said too about the pussy on the pedestal. Yeah, bro.
Yep.
Yeah,
they're too focused on sex. Because they've all got the message was to not be focused on that so you could be a good dude. And this is like 20, 30 years ago, right? Be a good dude. Don't use a girl for sex, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, guys realized and came wise, as I did when I was younger, that, sex is part of the equation and women are using you, you know what I mean, essentially, and then not giving you what you're wanting, which is a sexual relationship. And so guys have now shifted the other way. And I know this because that's the weirdest thing has happened with my coaching business is I've had young girls, like 18, 19.
Yo.
Oh, Paul, you still there?
Yeah. I thought, Paul.
I think we might have lost Paul.
I think we lost him.
Push with me.
All right. Well,
there he is.
Okay, Paul, you there?
Yeah, I got out of there. Okay, I'll go back it up then. What I was saying. Well, luckily we're pre-recording. Can edit that one.
Yeah.
But so I'll back up. So the strangest thing happened in my coaching business. Occasionally, I will get a young female. When I say young, I mean like 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old, it's just not been a ton of them, but there's been I've coached probably over 1,000 guys at this point, well into the thousands. I'd say a couple handfuls of the people I've coached have been these young females. And I'm always surprised because my rates are not cheap. And I'm like, damn, what is this chick? And there's always that skepticism. Is she just have some weird internet crush or something, and that's why she's scheduling? And that's not the impression I got with any of them. Really what it is that they see that their friends are failing in the sexual marketplace, and they're failing because they're giving up ass too quick, and they're basically falling into the same social paradigm of using their vaginas for power, partying, hanging out, doing whatever, and then they try to settle down later, and it's just a failure, right? And I've been observing this, and they're like, how do I do dating? How do I sidestep this, right? And so I'm advising them and helping them in a way where they could hit the dating market and have good, meaningful relationships with guys. And it's not to say, if they give up sex or not, that's up to them. It's not, they're not using guys in that sense. They're looking for meaningful, good experiences with the dudes. And they're going on all these dates, and dudes are just like, oh, if we're not banging on the first date, I don't care. Oh, if we're not, you know what I mean? They're so focused on the sex, and if they don't give up that, they don't give up that pussy, then it's, oh, well, I'm not going to go past 3 dates. Like, they're setting all these rules, and it's funny because I'm hearing these girls regurgitate it back, and it's all the damn rules that's all over the red pill shit.
Yeah, we hear that shit all the time. And right. You know what? It's funny. It's like, the main thing is that, You're not supposed to. They're taking, I think, what Rolo said way out of context, and
Mhm.
really what he said was, it's not. It's like sex doesn't have to be the end goal. It's you have to see that there was a desire of
It's
it,
sexual
like
desire.
their sexual desire is there. Just because
Mhm.
she doesn't open her legs the first night doesn't mean it's a no go. It means that she
Well,
has some.
exactly.
She means she has some class and a little bit of respect for herself. You
And
know
it also means that, there may be a lack of seduction that's happening with that guy, and that's the other side,
exactly.
is that they're approaching it like these, robots. Like, here's the rule, like, have sex with me at first date, or you don't want the sex. Well, then I'm not paying for dinner next month or next week. Like, it's like they're not seducing the girl. They're not having experiences with her and showing genuine interest and curiosity and pulling that curiosity out of her, where she's qualifying with
Facts.
him now and saying, I'm curious about you. I want to hear more about you. Let me do something for you. Let me be closer to you, and drawing them in instead, and being very, as if when it comes to the sex, like, hey, we have sex, cool. If not, cool. We're gonna let this connection grow organically. Maybe it happens on the first date. Maybe it happens on the fourth or fifth date. It's not that I'm saying that guys should just pursue, like, because guys will hear this and then with their black and white binary thinking and lack of critical thinking skills that we have nowadays, are going to go, oh, what? So I should just pay for the dinners and not get the sex? Like, no, weirdo. Go out with a
Right.
girl and have a damn good time and
Well, because then what they're
relax,
doing is they're
right?
making it transactionary. That mindset is
Exactly.
that mindset is counterproductive to what they want. If you
They're
want
not
a
seducing,
non-trans,
right? That's
exactly, like
transactional. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
then you're saying, well, wait a minute. If I'm not paying for sex, then if I'm paying for dinner and you're not giving me sex at the end of the night, well, then no. Well, you just made it a transaction. You're not even making it based off genuine desire. You
Right.
know, and like, I'm sorry, a steak is not that expensive. I'll get my own damn steak. If I was a girl,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like what you guys were saying too. It's all textbook. It's all textbook. It's kind of like, you can read the driver's ed manual, but you won't learn how to drive unless you get in the car and start, turning the steering wheel. It's the same thing. This is what we're talking about with the plethora of information that's out there. People that are misquoting the originators, people taking things out of context and just diluting the message and the true intentions. It's causing this
Mm-hmm.
offspring of people that are confused, and it's really giving men, people that truly still believe in the theory of red pill, a bad name. This is why there's such a divide. But at the end of the day, guys, like you guys said, it's everything is not black and white. And I say this on my show all the time. Masculinity is not a one size fits all. Guys are
Right.
so afraid and they want to hang on to every syllable and consonant that somebody that a guru tells them, as opposed to trying to think for themselves. And it's hard to think for yourself because you alienate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, you know what I mean, you're gonna be ostracized. The guys that you formed bonds with, that kind of saved each other's lives and shit from the heartaches that we had, it's hard to kind of step away and say, you know what, I think I'm graduating from this, I can do my own thing. It's tough, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if you continue to stay on the hamster wheel, the crowds are only going to get bigger and nobody's going to get smarter. So,
Yeah.
it's tough,
Yeah.
man. It's tough.
well, it's
Yeah.
also, it almost seems like everybody is trying to become book smart in game, but have no
Right,
application in it.
Right.
bro.
Because I mean, how many times, Paul? I mean,
Mm.
dude, we both been in the military, and we get these instructions down the road, and we just know that we can't execute them like this in the field. It just won't work this way,
Right.
in the situation that we're in. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like we have to be quick, thinking on our feet and
Mm-hmm. They have
execute
to
it in the way
understand the principle. They have to
exactly.
understand the concept and then execute, not just, not
Not
just
everything to the
blindly
letter.
follow steps. Right. Exactly. It's
Oh, yes.
and steps are important, for sure, especially in the beginning, but you can't just be following steps blindly. Of course, you have to be using your critical thinking skills and trying to understand, knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Like, no, you don't want to allow yourself to be used, by women and not get what you want out of the relationship which is, yeah, that's true, right? But then to blindly, it shouldn't have sex with me by this date, and they're
Dude,
just following a rule, and they're forgetting that the whole point is to seduce a woman and to draw her into
precisely.
your frame. And they're
Precisely.
not they're not seducing anybody. They're just they forget the girl who is like some of these girls that I coached, right? They wanted to bang and they were hot. This is the other thing. I thought when a girl would come to me for coaching, she would like be kind of a fat 5 or 4. Like, I'm not trying to be disparaging to women out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I thought that's what it'd
It
be.
is
And I'd
what
be
it
like,
is.
okay, you
Yeah.
got to hit the gym, girl. You got to do this. I thought it would be that discussion. No, these girls were pretty. And I'm looking at them going, dude, like, these girls are pretty. Like, they're good looking. Like, what the hell is going on here? It's just that they're fearful of giving themselves in that way to the wrong dude, and they should be. That means that's a good thing. And the guys that are taking them out don't know how to have the patience to seduce them and make them feel comfortable because they wanted to have sex. They want to have sex with a good partner that wasn't going to harm them, right? And all these guys had to do was be that guy, and they would have this awesome set, like this hot, good-looking 21-year-old who's never had any partners before. You know what I mean? He's all about it, right?
Oh
And
my
I mean, that
God.
And they
you know what I'm
What a
sabotaging
saying?
themselves.
How
waste.
stupid, dude!
Dude,
Exactly,
that's
How
such
you
a
gonna
waste.
That's like cutting your own dick off.
dude.
Dude.
Seriously,
You know what's
it was
crazy?
ridiculous.
Yeah, you know what's
Ridiculous.
crazy too, guys, what you guys are talking about, And this is what we talked about, thinking outside the box and shit. You guys have been in the military, and there's certain instructions that you have to follow to a T, but there's other things that you have to rely on instincts. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in conjunction to black and white, and people really looking at the holding on to every word that somebody says, there's another thing that's important too that I see in the space, which is kind of taken out of context. People, unless you have statistics and numbers, your point isn't valid. Now, I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
anecdotal experience and data is trumps statistics, because you got to go by something, right? But sometimes you got to think outside of those boxes, bro. Sometimes, if you don't
Right.
have statistics and numbers, your point is not valid. And now you're going to call it anecdotal. This is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, bro. See, at the end of the day, you can have statistics that says one thing, but like you said, Paul, statistics on the chicks that you coach that are attractive, that wanted
Yeah.
to bang, they don't fall into that category of those statistics. They're
No.
anomalies.
Because they're human beings, and human beings are
Precisely. Right.
individuals with different things, and this is what gets forgotten about in the space. So
Right.
in my mastermind group, this is something that I work with these guys on, because they'll come into the group. Most of the guys who are getting into a mastermind group have already done some research and studying, and then they have a lot of generalities with game, like, oh, don't double text a girl, and if she says this, if she says, or you're a player, you say this, and all these things, and they're good, they're not bad. You know what I mean? It's good general game skills. But then when I start showing them other skills to get a good read on somebody, and to be able to figure, like, to meet a girl and within 5 minutes you can tell her story and understand how her brain works, like in an empathetic way, that's where the power is. And that's where a girl will open up to you, and that's where a girl who maybe wouldn't have before, maybe you're not even her type, now gravitates towards you and is interested, not just in sex, because which sex is great, but she's interested in sex, but she's interested in like learning about you. She's interested in picking you up a fucking snack on her way over to your house. You know what I mean? She's like interested in all of these other things because you've made this connection with her, and that requires empathy. And everyone's buried in front of a screen. So, like, AV, I'm so glad you said the thing about the phone detox, because it's true. These
Facts.
dudes are buried in his screens, and they're not making personal connections with people just as a rule. And then when they get out there and function with women, they don't know how to seduce, because seduction requires that empathy and connection. You know what I mean? And so that's what's missing, really, is that they're focused too much on sex and worried about getting burned. As AV said, they're afraid to fall in love, all that BS. They're afraid to get hurt, and they're burying themselves in content, but not actually learning anything or any skills, you know. And so
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So recap, we said respecting themselves, not loving, not being too afraid to love. And Paul, you went on with like not
Being too focused on
too
sex.
focused on sex.
Yep. And we can add a fourth just in general is not learning the actual skills of seduction and spending too much time on self-protection or too much time on simping for a girl. It's like you got these extremes. You got a guy simping for girls, not respecting themselves, as you said, Glenn.
Yep.
Or the guys protecting themselves so hard that they're focused on the lay. They're, and they don't have skills to get the lay, but that's just what they're focused on. They're focused too much on the standards, and they're afraid to actually care about somebody. They're afraid to, fall in love, as Avi said. So
which is really sad. It's funny because and then maybe this will be another topic because I think Paul, you would want to jump on this one. Av, I'm sure you would too. But Rollo says men are the real romantics, and I did this study. I just did it on my own, and I started going through a whole bunch of romantic movies. Right.
Then we got to do those shows too, by the way.
Yeah, we do.
We're starting that when I get back from this little military trip, for sure.
That'll be fun. Sure. In every romantic movie that I caught on, the Titanic, the Notebook, these major ones, right?
Yeah.
The girl, what's true romance, and what we don't see in men anymore. This goes back to AV, men being too afraid to love women, is that in these true romantic movies, this is super simpy. So I'm not saying that men need to be this way, but it's that. What we consider a romantic movie these days is a girl makes a bad decision. The right guy forgives her bad decision making. And that's what true romance is, according to society. Now,
yeah.
Think about it.
Yep.
Think about it. Titanic.
Right.
I'm going to give up my life for you so you could go love someone else and have babies with, but then still be alpha widowed by me. All right. The Notebook. I'm going to go to war. I'm going to go fight this war, and the only thing that's keeping me alive is the thought of coming back to you. But let me come back to you, but you're with another man, and I got to wait till you decide that you're done with that man and come back to me. And that's what we're considering true romantic, And it's really sad that this is, in the plethora of movies, this is what we see as romance. And my girl brought up a one movie. I think she mentioned My Best Friend's Wedding or something like that. And I haven't really recapped that one. But I guess the girl actually started chasing the guy instead of the guy, you know what I'm saying? And that is romance too. But we don't see that action anymore. We don't see enough of women having true romance. And I think what we're having a problem with, tying into what AV said, is that guys are too afraid to be romantic in that sense. And they live off of these rules of, if I don't get laid the first night, then I'm not gonna invest in her, or I'm not going to even waste my time with her. And as you were saying, Paul, they don't have the seductive skills to get the woman to want to invest in them, to establish that. So in a sense, that men are losing sight of what it is to be romantic in the first place. Now, it kind of seems like,
a lot of the ones that become, that get burned and sort of get some level of awareness, that's exactly what happens. Yeah. I have these guys in my my seduction and frame group, but you're in that forum, that they said I won't watch red pill content. Now of course we're not talking about some of the really good players out there, but we're talking about just people who brand themselves as red pill, and they just talk about the dark nature of women and of some women, right? The cheating, the lying, the BS, right? And the stuff. And the problems with the legal system, and they focus all on that. That's their whole message in their channels. And it's they can't even watch that because they got burned somewhere, and then it put them in a place of trying to protect themselves so hard that they couldn't even have a good time going out with a chick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Getting a pretty girl, going out, it should be fun, whatever. And they're too focused on not getting burned and not getting hurt. You know what I mean? The whole focus on getting laid is all about that. I don't want to just give up my attention. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you got to
Well,
calm
and it kind
down.
of goes back. It kind of
Yeah.
all of this kind of like ties into game. You know, we'll kind of close out with this in the end here soon. Because having respect for yourself is part of knowing game. Is knowing your
Yep.
game. You have to respect your own game. Being able to, seduce a woman is game. You know, it's making sure that you are providing an attractive, item to the market that has these attractive qualities that make them want to invest in you or your product. That's game. And as AV said, like the best businessmen that have, let's say, like, I don't know, whatever car dealership, whatever, Ford's been around forever. You know why they're good? Is because they keep good quality, or they keep a good baseline, and people could trust them and have good quality experience with them. And that's because they love their product enough, they love who they are enough, their brand enough to not stagger and to be able to give into that. That's being able to have, romance and to love a woman. If you love your own product enough, you could give that love away, if you have the respect for everything else. So it does kind of all tie into game, in the sense that what we're seeing is that men don't have a real understanding of game in the sense of its entirety, and they're so focused on the sexual nature of it that they don't understand how it could be implemented in other areas of their life to really to give their life to the fullest quality that they want. Because I mean, like, Paul, you know my story. Like, I was one of those guys that, like, I was not, after my marriage, I was like, I don't know. I was shutting down. I was like, I don't want this problem, And it took time to get to where I'm at now, and it took a lot of healing. It took a lot of, a lot of time. Like, this is where I fucked up. These are the red flags that I chose to ignore. These are the things that I could have done differently. And although whatever they did was bad, I allowed this to this degree. It took time to get that. But if we're just spewing, oh, all women ain't shit, all women, they're just hoes and this and that, they're just out for the bag, then you're going to have a horrible image of women, and you're never going to have any good time with them.
Right.
I agree with you, man. I mean, and it all stems down to what you said. I mean, first things first, time heals, right? Time heals, time reveals, right? So that's number one. So everything, you can't rush time, you can't rush healing. That happens when it's supposed to happen. And number two, you said something very important, that at the end of the day, yes, bitches ain't shit for the most part. They all are after the bag, but that's irrelevant, because what is relevant is the fact that you have to be accountable. Whether she was a bitch or not, what did you do? What did you overlook to not see the fact that she was a bitch? So at the end of the day, we are all accountable. It is what it is. That's the double standard that we have to deal with. This is why we have to fall on our sword. But knowing this, that, we'll lay down for our loved ones gladly, this puts us in a position to demand authority, demand respect, demand certain things of our partners that we're willing to die for. Bitch, if I'm gonna fall on my sword, you gotta make me a sandwich type shit. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, guys, that's really what it is. And it all comes down to what we've been saying this whole hour. Respect for yourself, love yourself. Don't be afraid. You gotta kind of tune out some people, even though they've saved your life and you're friends with them. You got to ignore that call or ignore that live stream for a little bit and kind of think things for yourself, so that way you can kind of make a decision that's best for you, bro.
Yep. Well, at the end of the day, too, going back to what I was talking about with the social shift and why men are struggling, because of the shift, it's setting themselves up for failure, setting themselves up for either being a complete simp for a girl and not being attractive and becoming essentially a slave to society and to a female imperative, or it makes them hypersensitive and hyper defensive and not able to enjoy women or have a good time, and setting too many rules out and having toxic relationships. It's this paradigm. The way out of that really is to develop the frame skills, and that's your game and seduction and your inner game as well, because women are still designed to follow a dominant leader that's a male. Whether they show up and they're strong, independent, and this and that and the other, and that's the narrative, and that's what they hang on to. When they start to have that attraction and those feelings around a guy that makes them feel both attracted and desiring, as well as secure and safe, game over. You know what I mean? We cut through all
Facts.
the BS that's out there. And so instead of consuming content that's there to stimulate your anxiety and make you more defensive in a negative way where you can't even enjoy women, or to go completely blue-pilled and just ignore things and don't develop your skills at all, or completely turn into a simp, you guys got to consume content with actionable stuff. AV's got a podcast that airs pretty frequently, and not enough of you are on it. So go
Let's
do
go.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's go.
And then I have my channel, and I have my my mastermind group and stuff. There's the free stuff and there's the paywall stuff, and it's start developing your skills, because your relationships with women are going to determine in large part of how much joy you're having in your life. And
Absolutely.
people who have bad relationships or no relationships tend to not be having a very good time. And so start consuming the resources that will allow you to better yourself in this game,
Right.
instead of just being angry and frustrated in this game, and that's about all I got to say for anything closing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Let's just shoot it around. Like what do you guys got going on? AV, what's tomorrow's breakfast with AV gonna be about?
Finish your breakfast tomorrow. I appreciate you guys for having me on episode 1. Best game on the internet. Guys, make sure you guys follow me, or subscribe rather, to my YouTube channel, Alpha Villains. Tomorrow's topic is going to be why toxic femininity exists. We're going to talk about Black China. We're going to talk about Amber Heard a little bit, and talk about toxic femininity. 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Alpha Villains channel. Finish your breakfast with AV Morning Show.
Hey, I want to say, like, you've been doing a good job following that Johnny Depp and
Appreciate
Heard.
you. Yeah,
For
we're trying.
like,
It's a trending topic.
I mean, you're on it more than I am. Like, I've been busy working, so I haven't been able to catch up. But I've caught a little bit of what you're doing. I was like, damn, he spot on.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, right now I'm fortunate because I work remote, right? So I have like 7 monitors with my 9 to 5 and this shit. So I could pump it out as long as I can while I'm remote. So yeah, man, but I appreciate you guys.
Paul, what you got going on? I know you remote right now, so are we going to be seeing anything coming soon?
Well, yeah, I got my normal postings, videos that usually happen Monday, Wednesday, Friday at ApexMindset on YouTube. Anything live from me will happen when I get back, but I'm not gone for that long. I'm only gone for, a few days here for some training exercises. So I'll be back at it next week. But I got, my main focus is all the inner game stuff and mindset stuff and really actionable things to get over limits, trauma, damage, and to achieve, excellence in your life. And all those things that would be holding you back from that in your mind, right? To help you get that mind straight is a big part of it. That's where it's at. But then, as far as relationship dynamics, there's guys out there who aren't getting good dates, aren't getting the girls. There's guys that are getting a lot of dates, but they're not. They want to improve on that. There's guys in relationships, and they're wanting to improve that aspect of their life and make their relationship better and get more frame in the relationship and solve problems. And then there's guys who's getting over a relationship. They just broke up with somebody, or they've up with somebody a while ago and they're overcoming that. And so all of those people, if you fit any of those descriptions, you need to be on my channel and learning actionable skill sets. I give a lot of things for free on the channel, and then but it's not just passively listening. That for most people, you're going to have to actually do some work. And that's where people jump into my mastermind group or any of my courses, or they book a consult session with me one-on-one so we can actually overcome things that are screwing you up or achieve the goals that you need to do with an action plan and stuff like that. And that's what we do over there. So yeah, but just go to apexmindset.net or the channel, hit subscribe, and then start hanging out and see what you like, and maybe you'll get something out of it.
Definitely. I could definitely say it's worth the price to have a one-on-one with Paul. I've done it several times. Helped me out tremendously. I was thinking, what do we want to talk about next time? Because you know what, AV did hit a thing that I've been flirting with on my mind, which is femininity versus feminism. And
that's good.
I thought would be a really good topic because I don't want to be a women ain't shit, thing, but I want to highlight the difference between, excuse me, femininity and the true beauty of femininity and the ugliness of feminism, and where guys could see if they see these certain type of traits or behaviors, maybe to help vet those ones out if those are not the ones that they're looking for. I think that might be a good topic for next week or next time we do this. Femininity versus feminism.
Yeah, that's easy too. That's triggering too. So that'll be dope. And hopefully Afi will be his schedule will be clear, man. So we'll get the four of us on here. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yes. So until next time.
Hell yeah, it's good seeing you guys. Sorry I've been off.
Likewise, man. We appreciate you. Yeah, definitely. See you guys next week.
All right.
All right. Take care, guys. Peace.
Take it easy. Peace.